Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Tironi, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting is being conducted in person and in remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, which further extend the certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in a public meeting until June 2027. Please note that not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. The agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at tonight's meeting. Please note, this meeting is being recorded. I'll get to that. All materials from this meeting are available at the following link, which I'll provide in the chat after I'm finished with this. And Brian Bowe, the Conservation Commission Chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note that there will be a public comment period at the end of each hearing. Each vote will be taken during this meeting will be conducted by roll call. We will begin with roll call attendance. Brian, can you review the agenda and take roll call attendance?
Okay. The agenda tonight starts with a review of an eagle project in the town forest. Then we'll have a continuation of an NOI hearing for DPW Birch Meadow Park and modular classroom, followed by opening a public hearing on an NOI for 119 Winthrop Ave. Then opening a public hearing on an NOI for 288 Grove Street. Then opening a public hearing on an RDA for 15 B Street. Continue a public hearing on NOI for 885 Main Street. And the last hearing tonight is a continuation of public hearing on an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 695 Pearl Street. And we'll move on to some old new business, discussion of violation notices, something for the Reading Open Land Trust, and then a review of the DPW storage containers. So at this point, call the roll, and this will be the order that we'll vote in. Tim, can we start with you?
Yes, Tim Michelle, present.
Walter Talbot, Commissioner, present.
Martha.
Martha Moore, Vice Chair, present.
Brian Bowe, Chair, present. Call to order at 7:04 on the big clock.
Can I just add something to that? I just want to let everyone know that 885 Main Street and 695 Pearl Street have been continued at the applicant's request until May 7th. Just in case if anyone's here or listening that was here for that.
What that means is that we're not going to be having any discussion of the hearing tonight. The applicant has asked that it not be considered until May 7th, at which point we'll open it, continue it, whatever is appropriate. And it is possible it'll be continued again at that point. It has to be the applicant's request though. So if you have comments for 695 Pearl Street, then feel free to come back in the next meeting. Having said that, let's start with the Eagle project. Evan, can you please come to the podium and for the record, give us your name and address, please?
So my name is Evan Albee. I live at 311 Summer Ave, here in Reading. Good evening, everyone. This is my project for the Pine Ridge Trail, the steps in the town forest. Currently, the stairs are pretty damaged. They've been weathered over the years, and they're now like a hazard for people to walk on. So my proposal is to tear out the old steps, put 8 new ones in, and there were 8 old ones, so it'll line up pretty well. The dimensions of these steps are going to be 50 feet wide, 20 feet deep, and 5 inches high, which are relatively the same. They're about an inch slimmer or narrower than the old steps were, and that's to allow more room for bikers on the side, because mountain bikers use that path. Each step module will be filled with 3/4 inch gravel, and there will be landscape fabric lining each step to prevent plants from coming in. All right, so the date for something like this would be early June, and it would be a 2-day project. One of those days would be a build day sometime during the week, just at my house, putting the modules together. And it would be 8 3-piece modules for each step. And then there would be a day on a weekend in early June where we would go into the town forest and then tear out the old steps and install the new ones. Now for fundraising for this project, it'll be done mainly through GoFundMe. Links will be sent out to friends and family as well as posted on the town forest Facebook page. And donations will be asked from scout-friendly organizations on top of that. And that is my proposal.
Okay, you all set? All right, any questions from the commission? Tim, we'll start with you since you're remote. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay, Walter?
My only comment would be that congratulations on attempting to achieve Eagle. I'm sure you'll make it. I earned mine 61 years ago next month. Puts it in perspective. And I'll be the only old person to ever say this to you ever in your life. It was easier for me to get Eagle than it's going to be for you. It's actually easier
Okay,
for me.
what's that?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's that?
I have two questions. One is how much of your project is inside the 100 feet from the wetland boundary area?
I think the entire thing is.
Okay. And my second question was, are you concerned about erosion by having a place for the bikers to go down the steep hill? Is that gonna cause a gully next to your steps?
So currently there is a small space to the right side where bikers go down and it hasn't caused too much of a problem. What we could do is always put some gravel down there to help prevent erosion, but there's always a worry that the gravel could roll down the hill there. So there's not, I'm not worried too much about the erosion because it doesn't seem like there's a problem currently. So even if we widen it, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue, but.
Any question on the erosion as well? I agree that's not bad right now, but it's also compacted right now. So my thought is more, once you do the work and therefore the soil is loosened, I think it's more likely you would get some erosion, at least in the beginning. So I don't know if it's gravel, but some thought into doing some stabilization, I think would make sense. Okay, that's really the only question I had of any importance. So I think we can vote on this to give you approval to move on with your career. So can I have a motion to approve this Eagle Scout project?
I move we accept this Eagle Scout project.
I'll second that.
Okay, Tim?
Tim Michelle in favor?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. Thank you.
Thank
Simple, wasn't it?
you.
But really look at the erosion. Okay, our next is a continuation on the public hearing for notice of intent. DPW Birch Meadow Park in modular classroom. I'll read the blurb. Chuck, you can let anybody in, is there anybody out there?
Yeah, I get a few,
Okay, filed by Ryan Percival, Town Engineer pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40.
can you just let me know who's on your team too?
The Wetlands Protection Act and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for construction of 2 basketball courts, a playground, formalized handicap parking, new stormwater controls, modular classroom, grading, ADA accessible walkway, and amenities. Portions of the work are within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. And on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, assessors map various lot various DEP file number 270-0797. Okay.
I'm Holly Ganser with Activitas, the designers and engineers on the park side of the project. Online and also in the room we have Jim Sullivan from Recreation. Ryan's on vacation, which is why he's not here right now. On the call, we also have Steve Crisicoli from Activitas. So Chuck, if you can make him a co-host as well, that would be great. And then also Joe Pesnola and Eva Marie Alessandro from the modular side, and they can speak to that when we get to that portion.
Yes, Steve is all set.
So we have a presentation that we can pull up, but so here at the continuation, we received the comments that were given to us at the first hearing and prepared a response to those questions. And I think the intent of tonight is just to walk through our responses on those and then open it up to the board for discussion. So I'm just going to step through each of the different comments. And so first two comments that we had received was just clarifying what would be removed versus proposed in terms of the pickleball versus basketball court. So we revised both the project narrative in the NOI and the stormwater report to confirm that it is pickleball and one basketball court will be removed and the two basketball courts will be going in place of those two areas. Another comment we received was just revising the limit of erosion control along the connection to Longfellow Road, which in the provided site preparation plan, the revised one, we revised that to end to allow the drainage from the street to continue to move into that drainage way and then eventually make its way into the wetland. Another request was just to make sure that we called out for the protection and careful relocation if required of that memorial bench that is along Longfellow Road. So we revised the site preparation plan to call that out, to make the contractors aware that that is there and it should be preserved. Couple more things on the site preparation plan. So just showing a construction entrance, which we added, and then material stockpile areas. The material stockpile area is the anticipated location of where that stockpile material will be. But just with the two different kind of construction projects with the modular side and the site side, that stockpile may need to move. And Steve, can we go to the plan 11? There we go. So you'll see the stockpile location is just 2 pages north of the existing playground area. That may need to move within the site just in the event that we need more space on site for other construction activities. We have located it outside of the 100-foot buffer and we'll make every effort to have any stockpile areas outside of that 100-foot buffer. So they received some comments just about, we're going to stay on site prep, sorry. We've got, just to clarify what trees would be removed versus transplanted, we provided a color plan just for conservation's better visualization of which trees will be to, and Steve, can you maybe zoom in just a touch so we can see the notes just a little bit better there? It's just a little bit of a small text size on our screens. Struggling to read that from here too. So yellow will be transplanted and that will be transplanted by the town. Red is to be removed and then green will receive the tree protection and those trees will be to remain. So as you can see on this plan, only one tree will be fully removed within the 100-foot buffer. 2 trees will be transplanted within the 100-foot buffer, and then the 2 trees that are within the 100-foot buffer to remain are the closest ones to that wetland line.
So you said yellow is for transplant, and I can't see the yellow there. Which one's the yellow?
I'll come over here and point so you can see better. So in the modular area, these 2 trees would be transplanted, and Steve's circling them for us too. This is transplanted and this one would be transplanted.
All right, so on a site visit Monday, we saw that those have all already been removed. Do you know where they're gonna be transplanted to?
It's on the pink on the right.
2 on the right by the modular classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Those have
gone.
already been removed.
They're gone. There's a round spot, not really big enough to take a root ball out.
So where are they going?
Steve, can you speak to where those?
I believe they were relocated to the cemetery. I'm not sure if Jim Sullivan's there, but I just spoke with him earlier.
I can jump up real quick. Jim Sullivan, Recreation Administrator, Town of Reading. I believe there was the 2 that you're talking about. I think Mike Hannaford had those removed in transplanted at one of the cemeteries. I can confirm with you prior to that, but I believe it was, I want to say last week they were out there looking at those trees potentially.
I asked because I thought in the conversation last time, we were talking about transplanting them to another spot on site, and we talked about being partially screening, for example, down by Longfellow. I'll have to go back and listen to it again, but I was surprised that they were gone and not visibly somewhere else.
Maybe I was not clear enough when I said, can they be moved?
I'm pretty sure that's what the intent is. but
It was my intent, I didn't,
So I think an additional problem might be that depending on where they're moved, I mean, I'm sure there's no connectivity between this location and whatever cemetery they're at. And we would like the trees in the buffer zone to remain in the buffer zone.
Right.
Even if they're on this site and they're outside the 100-foot, it wouldn't count. So
Let me see if I can get an answer for you between now and the next 5 minutes. I can make a phone call.
Yeah.
I'm curious as well.
Thank you.
So staying on planting, we can show you what the proposed planting will be on the site. So within the buffer, new trees that would be going in is four new trees, and Steve, if we could circle those ones, that would be awesome. There will be 3 kind of along the playground area that you see to the right of the playground area, and then 1 additional tree on the right-hand side of the walkway.
can Steve also highlight the 100-foot buffer zone?
Yep.
That would be helpful. All right, so what Jim's doing doesn't really matter anymore. If we're taking out 1 and you're planting 4 new ones, and those are native trees.
Yes, and we have, in addition to responding to that comment about the request to revise the planting list, we have removed all non-native plants from the plant list. that have been proposed.
And the tree that is being taken out in the buffer zone is diseased or dead. That was confirmed just after that first conservation hearing. So we weren't intentionally taking that out. We were going to work around it, but those do need to come out. It's one. It's shown as 2, but it's 1 tree with 2 leaders.
Exactly.
so the other trees that are being removed are actually outside the buffer zone?
Correct. And those are also being removed because of health.
Sure, and just for the record, that was Steve Crisofelli from Activitas.
Thank you.
So we got an answer. You removed 1, but as we were just shown, there are 4 new trees that are native being planted within the buffer zone. So you've met the replacement criteria.
Technically 5.
But thanks
Oh,
for
I guess-
checking.
Guess there is a 5th one just right on the edge of the 100-foot buffer where
Okay.
within that island on the.
As well as some additional shrubs and planting. In addition to the restoration mixed area outside of that 10-foot.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Right, so moving on to utility plan, we revised that perforated pipeline just to make that more clear, perforated pipe within the playground area to make a better distinction between the solid pipe and the perforated pipe. So for lighting, we revised just the visual in the report to better clarify where the cutoff edge is. Again, the mapping does not account for any vegetation on the edge there. In the slide previous to this one, Steve, the red box here, the further one on the right, is similar to what is there now existing in terms of glare. The new system will be able to control that glare and control that spill quite a bit, so it will be an improved condition on what is out there right now. And as far as the schedule for that lighting, the town is willing to work out a schedule that both respects the neighborhood and turn off that at an acceptable time. And that's something I believe that they're working through with the working board as well for that.
So at the last meeting, that was 9 o'clock, but that's no longer the case. You're gonna have the select board.
Jim Sullivan, Recreation Administrator. Currently, right now, the tennis courts are 10 o'clock. I did make a recommendation potentially going to 9 o'clock. At the CPDC meeting, I think someone had made a comment that 9 could potentially be too early, so it'd be something that I'd bring to my rec committee.
9 could be too late.
Too early potentially. They mentioned that a lot of kids are going out of town to play elsewhere. Some nights it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock in the early summer as well, so.
A CPDC member mentioned that they had concern about the courts not being used between 9 and 10. Is that, or was that a resident?
Potentially, you know, saying maybe it could stay until 10 o'clock. I'm open to suggestions. I think taking input from the neighbors is pretty important, especially with the basketball on and ball too. So I'm open to have the conversation and come up with a policy, the recreation committee, because right now it's 10 o'clock for all lights at our parks and playgrounds to go out at as a maximum. And there was talk, I think I had mentioned about possibly getting a timer so that those lights aren't on when it's not being utilized as well, which I think would be not only cost savings, but would be pretty respectful to the neighbors as well as the area.
Yeah, I remember that was concerned about the lighting. It's not here tonight. And I think he left town on vacation thinking that it was 9 o'clock was when.
No, there's nothing set in stone right now.
Yeah, but at the last meeting it was 9. And now, I don't think, so
It was mentioned
This
that was
change-
potentially would be a 9 o'clock shut off.
yeah, so this change, I don't think he's heard about. So I'm wondering what that would, how that would affect his thoughts.
So how and where would that get finalized?
It would be a policy through the recreation committee. They set policies for the recreation division. So it'd be a conversation that would be an agenda item and it would be voted on based off input, whether it's from conservation, CPDC, as well as the abutters.
And when would that be?
The project, I think, is slated to start July 7th with completion mid to late November.
Or when would the conversation be to set the time?
I would say it'd probably be coming within the next 2 months. Our next meeting is May 6th. I can put it on as an agenda item.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
And then the next two comments were related to the modular side, so I'm gonna let Joe speak to those, and it was just the request for providing the stormwater checklist for the drainage for the stormwater for the modular side, and then just providing a bit more documentation for the stormwater side of that, so I'm gonna let Joe speak to that.
Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates. So what we did is we've revised our drainage calculations to align with the call for the park to revise their stormwater to the Atlas 14 rainfall data. We looked at the 2, 10, and 100. We fully contain the 2 and 10 within the system, and we attenuate the 100-year. We also provided recharge calculations and drawdown, and also the DEP stormwater checklist. So I think that was it.
Joe, did you see the comment from DEP?
I did not.
I think you covered it, but it says unable to determine the stormwater standards are met. Checklist for stormwater report must be submitted and informed subject. Information submitted demonstrates how the project meets the stormwater standards. I was going to ask you about this, and I didn't know if, so they sent out 3, 2 to the town, 1 to Activitas, and they emailed me. I emailed them your information, so they have it, which was updated for the last meeting or between these last couple of meetings. do you think your information meets the standards? Do you think this question's been answered? Or do you need?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, as far as standard 1, there's no new discharge. Standard 2 is a attenuation, and we attenuate the 2 and 10, the 210 and 100. So there's no question there. Standard 3 is recharge, and we provided calculations as to meeting that. Standard 4 is treatment, and we are roof drainage, so we don't require treatment, but we do get treatment through the infiltration, just as a matter of course. 5 and 6 and 7 are not applicable. The critical area, LUPL and redevelopment, and long-term operation is there's really nothing to operate here, nothing to maintain and operate. It's just roof drain leaders that go into the stone underneath. And
that stone doesn't need, I don't know, to get the leaves out from underneath there occasionally, or will be, I don't know, will the storage, it's not storage area, will the classroom have kind of like a skirt around it so nothing will get underneath? So
yes, there'll be a skirt so nothing will get underneath.
So that means that the stone doesn't require any even occasional maintenance, because it should be nothing that could go wrong under there?
Correct.
there was a question about asking for detail of what you're doing underneath and how that's put together. Did the commission get that detail?
Yes, the detail of the stone is on our plan set.
Can that be pulled up on the screen so everyone can look at that? And what size rocks did you decide to use? What stone?
3/4 inch. So the detail in the lower side with the bubble around it. So put a geotextile fabric that just keeps the surrounding soils from infiltrating or from migrating into the stone and fouling it. So the it's 3/4 inch stone, 12 inches deep, and there's a 12-inch apron around the side.
And you don't feel like this needs any maintenance at all? It should work fine for many years.
Yes.
That's all the question I have. Okay, thanks, Joe.
And that was all the comments that we received at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the answers. That's good. Any questions, comments from the commission? Martha?
Could you zoom in on the modular classroom plan? And I'm especially interested in the storm drain that's at the lower right corner of that building. Yeah, that circle with a B, I think is the grill that's in the ground there. It looks to me when we're out in the field that that's higher elevation than the ground around it. So it doesn't seem like it's really draining the area next to the classroom, and you're grading the ground around there. Will that storm drain actually drain that area after the grading is done?
Yeah, I don't know what the purpose of that is, because topographically there's not a depression, and it's just a drain in the grass. We're actually going to decrease anything that could get to it by putting the modular there with the retaining wall, and intercepting that water. We're not proposing any grade changes down on that side of the wall. So I don't see the purpose of it, but we're not going to change its whatever function it has. So I don't know if facilities has more input with regards to its existence and what they've observed with regards to its function.
It just looks to me like the water runoff ends up going into the backyard of the neighbor next door from that area. And I'm wondering if there's a way to direct the runoff to the wetland rather than to the neighbor backyard.
Well, that would certainly, again, we're intercepting the water that comes from south of the parking lot and goes to the neighbor. So that'll be a decrease in at least the 2 and 10 year, and no increase in the 100 year. We can take a look at, trying to get some of the localized water that comes down from the access drive to that yard drain catch basin, and maybe lower the grate or replace the grate with a dome grate or something that works a little bit better to just catch a little bit even more, which would direct it into that drain system, which I would assume then discharges to the wetland. Happy to look into that.
Weird as a discharge, because the way it's set up now, you're getting infiltration underneath the classroom area,
Mhm.
modular classroom. And this may be taken all the way down to Morton Field.
So it may actually take water away from the wetland.
Yeah, do you know where that storm drain goes to? Do you have any
I
plans?
believe it connects into the system and then runs into.
So we'll go to Morton Field.
There's two lines. There's a D line and an S line.
The sewer line and the drain line.
Yes, circle, that's sewer. And then the circle above that you were asking about, Martha, has Ds.
I think it says B on it for some reason.
So the structure is B for catch basin, it's just the surveyor's indication, but it is a drain line. That's why the D indication on that line is for drain line.
So it does drain. Okay. It's not a sink. Okay.
So is there any way to calculate how much water is not going to the wetland and going out to Morton Field directly?
Just for this modular side?
Well,
No, this is raised above the grade, and
I
it's
know,
not
not-
working right now, so all the water's going to the wetland. Oh, just over the surface of the
Yeah, that's good.
grass.
that's good. Yeah, no, it's not
Yeah.
flush. So my thought was actually maybe you flush when they built it, round, settled, compacted, or whatever. It's definitely not flush. Anything else?
Don't have any more questions.
Okay. Chuck, any questions?
I asked my main concern was what DEP had sent us, and I think Joe, although he didn't get a copy, with the fact that he submitted the stormwater checklist, I think we're covered. And he answered my other question about maintenance. One second, guys. Gotta turn the recording on, Walter.
Recording in progress.
Oops.
That's what we need.
That's what happens when I'm here.
Okay. Okay, then any other comments from the commission? No. Any comments from the room? Any comments online, Chuck?
Hold on a second. Yeah, so if you have a comment, you're online watching, raise your hand using the reaction button. And you can make your comment. I don't see the regular cast of characters that were here at the last meeting, which, one was our own associate member, so. I don't see anyone raising their hand. this moment. So it looks like it was time of operation, which will be discussed with the May 6th recreation meeting. And I would suggest that people were concerned about that. It's really not a conservation item. Could attend that May 6th recreation meeting or reach out to Jim Sullivan for more information. And then the catch basin that was marked B, and what to do about it, either leave it alone. I would argue that wasn't part of this project. Is that correct? And
No, it's not part of the project.
project because of that question. So I'm not sure they ever intended to do anything about that catch basin.
Okay,
And
I
you
was
made,
just curious.
and you made a good point that the water's going to wetlands, so.
It might be more local if we just leave it alone.
So, then I think we can go ahead and close.
So one more question. Oh yeah, I have one more note I didn't read. Yeah, I didn't read it back enough. Are you satisfied? I just wanted to get it on the record that you're satisfied or you're not satisfied with the tree and they met the tree replacement policy.
Yes.
That's everyone. Okay, great. That was it.
Looks like only one of those two trees was inside the 100-foot. And they moved both of them and are putting in some extra trees to replace the one they took out. But none of those trees are in the area behind the classroom or the neighbors from the project classroom. That would be, what I had hoped when they were moving those trees, what they would be that they would move them closer to Longwood Road and provide a little more screening between the modular classroom and the neighbors. But you've met the requirement and those trees are inside the 100-foot and not necessarily in the other location. So,
Yeah, Martha, you don't have to accept where they've planted the trees. I mean, it sounds like that's what you're saying, that you need to accept these locations. If you feel like that a tree should be closer because it's better for the habitat, then that's your prerogative as a conservation member. So these trees, they did meet the standards, but
Do we ask for 2 trees to be moved to the bottom of that diagram between?
We can certainly look at final tree placement during construction. I think it would be better to look at it during construction once some of that edge is cleaned up, some of the dead wood, some of the garbage is cleaned up. We did look at trying to sneak some trees along those neighbors' properties. And as you can see with the sewer line, the drain line, it's very tight. And for the health and survival of the tree, it was too risky to just plop a tree in there. So we'd have to take a closer look. I don't want to just plant trees and then it becomes a burden on the town to have to take them down, or it's a problem with the utilities.
So I would just say that when you get to that point, rather than making a decision in a vacuum to involve Chuck.
Yeah.
so He can be part of the thinking at that point, because I understand what you're saying. We don't want that either, but let's be sure that our needs are met as well.
Yep.
what is the area you're talking about cleaning up the debris and stuff like that
Basically that entire edge
along that?
that has,
are you
I'm
on
not saying that we're going into the wetland, but there's logs and trash that's hanging.
Are you on the other side where the modular classroom is?
I
Is
was
that what-
thinking over on the modular classroom
That-
area.
Yeah, I mean, that's
On the
not,
lot of Pipes there.
I don't want to speak to that. I don't,
At the time, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that's even tighter
So, again,
between the existing vegetated edge.
the thought in the last meeting was by placing them there, we would do something to replace the trees, screening that were taken down over the course of time because of the building of the school. for that neighbor.
But did this go to CPDC? Did anyone, and that's typically where they talk about visual shading.
Yeah.
Did this come up?
I was not at that meeting, so Steve will have to speak to if that came up at the CPDC meeting.
Jim, do you recall? I think maybe some screening, or it was maybe some screening from this neighbor. It was nothing from this one,
Honestly, don't remember it coming up myself. Oh, gee.
but ultimately the elevation of this neighbor's house, it doesn't matter what you plant. You're never gonna screen it completely.
Hmm.
So we're honestly doing the best we can. And we are providing additional trees beyond what the replacement policy calls for. We're gonna try and clean up that edge, restore it. And like I said, when it comes to final tree location and planting location, we'll absolutely have Chuck out there, and if anyone from the commission wants to come out, we can determine those final locations.
Thank you.
We had also talked about the paving the path from the end of Longfellow and whether that's gonna increase traffic on Longfellow.
Again, more of a planning
Yeah.
board thing.
Yeah.
It was brought up by that neighbor when we were there on a site visit. His mother-in-law's concern was that once that path becomes better, more formal, or what have you, that they'd be seeing more traffic, drop-off traffic, and therefore turning around their driveway on a street because there's no cul-de-sac, it's just a dead end. But I don't think that's a conservation issue, it's a planning board issue.
Is that still part of the plan?
To pave that walkway,
And what
Alright.
are we paving that with?
asphalt.
Asphalt? Non-pervious?
I don't, yeah, so I think any gravel would kind of migrate off of that area. So our choices are asphalt or pervious asphalt. Yeah. And yeah, so this is a small area. And, you know, sometimes it is an improvement, even though it's asphalt. So
Okay. It might limit erosion in general because people stay on the path, we hope.
the reason why I'm not pushing pervious asphalt is to have one section in town that's pervious asphalt would be, you know, they don't even know what to do with it. They don't have any machinery that would even take care of that. So it doesn't make any sense to put one piece in. It will work for a while, but it won't work after
Okay.
a while. It'll just be just like any old asphalt.
Okay,
All right, that's it. I still don't see any hands.
You have a motion to close this hearing, please?
I move to close the hearing on the Birch Meadow and modular classroom NOI.
Walter Talbot seconds.
Tim Michelle in favor?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
I am going in favor. Can I have a motion to issue?
Do we discuss conditions after the motion to issue?
You should discuss them now.
You are correct. Conditions first. What conditions do we have for this?
Everything we've just discussed, the
Yeah.
trees.
I was just thinking about, so lighting, no, the timing of the lights, no. The trees, yes. Not the path going out to Longwood. What, any conditions from last time that we brought up that weren't covered?
Something about access from Motion,
Oh, what?
the access from Hawthorne. About materials, delivery trucks, stock storage is gonna be.
They added that to the plan, they added the stockpile area.
So I only have one contact the conservation administrator to locate the trees in the field before they're planted.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's it.
erosion control, we have a standard slate of boilerplate conditions, they're all gonna be part of this order. Has to do with erosion control and contact and, you know, certificates of compliance and things like that.
So that's the only extra one then, is to make sure. it's So that would be a condition.
And then I think, just to mention that the lower area that, Steve Crispelli, highlighted, that was going to be restored, be completed prior to the, opening of this project. I would typically say it's a certificate of compliance, but sometimes that's, you know, the opening is much better and they should plan everything together anyways.
Oh, you mean before first use?
Well, when you're planting the other trees at, you know, at the same time, just do it all at once. And I would assume those other trees would go in before the whole area is opened up. I mean, maybe the classrooms are on a different schedule. This is over by, you know, the basketball
The
courts.
playground.
Yeah.
Basketball court. Okay, in that case, can I have a motion to issue?
I move to issue an order of conditions for this project.
Walter Talbot seconds.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Rowe in favor. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I see you, Joe.
See it.
Okay, next is 119 Winthrop. I'll read the blurb. Let anybody in if you have to. Open the public hearing on notice of intent filed by James Gallagher pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes construction of a 22-foot by 24-foot garage addition with living space above. All of the work is within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors map 27, lot 274, DEP file 270-0798. Okay.
Anyone here for 119 Winthrop? You see, yeah, I think it's Jay and Megan, is that? Yeah, Megan. Here we go. Now just let them in, take them a minute.
Okay. Are you guys in? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, there we go.
Thanks for joining tonight. Can you walk us through your project?
Yeah, so we have an existing cape.
Hang on a second. Can you please introduce yourself and your address for the record?
Yeah, so James Gallagher in 119 Winthrop Ave, Reading, Mass.
Thank you.
So we have an existing cape, and we're proposing to put an addition off to the side. So basically to put a garage at the end of the driveway, expanding the living room above that, and then putting a primary suite on the top level. We worked hard with the zoning board to build away from the wetlands in the conservation area. We were able to get a zoning variance to build off to the side instead of having to build off to the back, both to stay out of the buffer zone and then also to try to keep the addition as far away from the wetlands as we were able to. So we're trying to be sensitive to the environment and sensitive to the wetlands and kind of reduce the impact and stay as far away from the sensitive areas as we can.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
We work with our architect to make it all work. We're working with the engineer on a rainwater retention plan. We've had the wetlands surveyed and flagged. I think you all saw that when you came out to visit. So it doesn't seem like anything too detrimental or dramatic. And it kind of the existing house has been there since the 1950. And just trying to kind of maintain an upkeep and expand it for our growing family. We have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old who are currently sharing a bedroom, a boy and a girl. So as time goes on, that's going to get less and less tenable. And it's, kind of the house we bought to, try to live in until they graduate from high school, basically. So trying to make that happen and trying to make it, a comfortable living space for all of us going forward. And
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Are you planning to keep the shed in the location it currently is, which is well within the 25-foot natural vegetation zone?
right. So the shed's been existing maybe even quite almost as long as the house. I mean, I've looked back on Google Earth and as long as I can find, which I think went back to 2001. It's been there since then, at least, I think significantly longer. We hadn't planned on doing anything with the shed. We weren't going to add to it. We weren't going to, make it bigger or anything like that. We hadn't necessarily, thought about getting rid of it. But I do understand it's in the buffer zone for sure.
And also inside the 35-foot zone is a play structure. And we often ask people with a play structure in an area that's supposed to be a no structure zone if they would remove it when their children outgrow the need for that play structure. So.
Oh yeah, that's certainly fine. Yeah. Once they hit high school, I don't think we need a swing set in the backyard for sure.
And I'm thinking similarly with the shed, if at some point the shed is no longer useful,
Yeah.
it would be good to take it down and not rebuild it in the same place.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
The shed behind the garage or something like that, or, have storage in the garage instead of in the shed.
Yeah. No, that certainly makes sense.
Chuck's trying to say something.
Yeah, so that's typically what we say, and we want to be consistent here throughout town, is that shed's fine, take care of it, because if it comes down and you have to replace it, it will not be going back in the same spot.
Okay.
That shed is, I'm not going to say grandfathered in because the commission could ask for it to be removed, but certainly if you got a new shed, it would have to be moved up, or
Okay.
at least come back to the commission. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
There's a stone circle behind the deck. Do you have
Yes.
any idea what the history of that is?
I don't. So you're talking about the stone circle on top of that mound?
Yeah.
So I don't. That's been there long before we bought the property. It looks like my guess would be maybe like an old fire ring that somebody had built. Not exactly sure what it is. And that's outside of the work, so we're not planning on touching that or modifying that area at all.
Yeah, I'm concerned that what it looks like to me is the top of an old cesspool that hasn't really been filled in properly. The dirt inside has sunk and has some openings. So, you might talk to whoever's in charge of filling cesspools. I don't know which department that is, but it might require more stone inside it or something to make it safe.
Okay.
That'd be the health department.
Thank you, health department. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. It looks from your plan like the driveway does not quite meet the addition. Are you planning to make the addition closer to the street or extend the driveway closer to the addition?
So extend the driveway close to the addition. So there's about a 3-foot gap at the moment. That's one of the things we're working with the engineer and the architect on at the moment is how to kind of grade the addition to the driveway and probably the part of the existing edge of the driveway to make everything line up and make it as gentle of a slope as possible. So tinkering with kind of the slope level to get it down to the right spot to match up with the garage.
And I guess my only other question, I noticed you have what looks like blueberry bushes across the back fence area. Would
Yes.
you be willing to plant any more native plantings along that back fence line?
We try to plant some stuff. My wife's tried to plant a whole bunch of stuff before, and between the deer and the rabbits, they don't last more than a month. But I mean, we could certainly look into trying to put something in there. I guess my only worry would be just wasted time, money, and effort to plant something that's just going to get eaten up instantly. But
I'm done.
Yeah, during the walkthrough, we noticed that there was a PVC pipe coming on your diagram. It looks like from stairs straight out. I assume that was some kind of sump pump discharge.
Yeah, so we have existing sump pump in our basement. That yeah, it discharges out there. It doesn't come on too often. But yeah, if you know there's a lot of groundwater, it'll pump a little bit up there.
The only thing I noticed as well was since you're discharging on top of the mound, if I may use that word, if we go off diagonally at a 45-degree angle, as we go off the mound, there's a lot of erosion.
Mm.
I'm wondering if we could put some kind of discharge area, crushed stone, whatever, to absorb that discharge.
Yeah, we can put some crushed stone in there. That'll be fine.
And then you had, what was it? Yep, that was what I had. Okay, thank you.
Tim, do you have anything?
Nope, all good here.
So I have some questions. There's a drainage man cover in the back left of the property that's not noted on the plan. You need to add that. And can you tell us how the roof runoff for the new garage living area is going to be handled?
So you're saying it shows the easement back there, but you're saying you'd like to also see the marking of the manhole?
Yeah, there's a manhole cover in the back left. You have some green markings on the ground there for the line.
Dig save, yeah.
We're just gonna add that to the plan, so we have that for future reference.
Okay, I can ask our engineer to add that on there. And then for the roof runoff, like I said, that the engineer is working on a rainwater retention plan at the moment.
So what do you want us to consider then in the meantime? What should we be thinking about roof runoff and how it's going to be handled?
So it's going to be infiltrated in the groundwater, into the ground rather. He's talking about some crushed stone, some sounds like retention chambers, possibly a pump depending on the whole elevation thing, possibly a pump to kind of pump the storm water where it needs to go in terms of like a discharge area, and to kind of dissipate it into the ground that way.
Okay. Yeah, so when do you think that plan would be drawn up and ready to be submitted to Conservation Office?
Hopefully very soon. It's been taking a lot longer than I would have ever thought it would have.
Right.
But my hope is within the next week.
Okay, we may have to come back to that. I'm not sure that we can go forward with that as an open item, but we'll just hold that in abeyance for the moment. Additionally, there's a downspout coming off the existing roof, which would end up being in front of the addition once the addition is added. What are your thoughts on handling that water?
I think it's probably only tied in the same system, I believe, because otherwise it would just discharge right in front. I mean, part of the plan is going to be to have a drain in front of the garage, so it'd either tie into that drain, and I think that's where the idea of the pump comes in. Otherwise they'll just make a giant mess in the driveway.
No, I would agree. It shouldn't just come down, but that should be part of the plan, yes.
Yeah.
So they're picking up the water across the back of the house and across the front? I mean, I'm trying to write it down, so what?
Okay, well,
What do we just?
they're gonna have to
agree
give us a plan.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to handle the water off the addition. In addition to that, there's water that currently comes a downspout off the existing roof. And where it comes down, it will now be blocked going to the back because the addition is going to be there.
Okay. So we just wait for the plan.
Right, I think.
Yes.
Isn't there a downspout on the far right side of the house
You mean from the front of the house?
coming down right now?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, front and back
Yeah,
of the
so-
existing house.
So, okay, so they're gonna have to do something with both.
Right, and that's all gonna be covered in the plan. That's gonna have to.
Yeah.
All right, there's a granite bound just off your property in the neighborhood. Sorry, the neighboring property. Do you have any idea what that is?
Granite mound?
Sorry, you broke up.
Do you say a granite mound?
Bound, a granite marker.
Oh, in the back?
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. No.
because it's not property where it is. I just don't know what it is, whether or not it's important to wetlands or anything. I just can't tell without maybe going back there, but
There's no marking on. I did look at it the other week. There's no markings on it or anything. But it's on our rear neighbor's properties. When you're looking at the plot plan there, the Spellman's property.
exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't know what it is.
So could you, while you're waiting for the plan to be finished, could you talk to them and see if they know what that bound is? The only reason I'm asking is I don't know if it pertains to this or not.
How would it pertain?
I don't know, did somebody delineate a wetland out there? I know that, I don't know. It's just a bound in the middle of nowhere, not too far from your property. I don't know what it means. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
so,
I can ask them. My guess would be it might be the edge of the town land because it backs up to Morden Field. So if I had to guess, I would guess it's probably the edge of the town property.
Yeah, so if you'd ask them and just let Chuck know what you're answering, that'd be great. What you answered, that'd be great.
yeah, I'd also
Okay.
say, if I could help Jay out
Sure.
a little bit. So typically in this town, I haven't found too many that don't mean that they're on the 25-foot line, but this was, wetland line was delineated by, was it Mary Rimmer? Was that who it was?
The person that did the work for us was Baz Baines.
Oh, yeah. That's Bane. So this is a new line and you'll be approving it. So that bound seems to be out of place.
If it's a 25-foot bound.
Yeah, but it's behind, isn't it on the Spellman's property
It is.
behind the wetland line? So it's in the wetland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much like right, probably almost in the middle of the wetland.
That's what I would think about it.
I guess, see, I don't know, which is why I was asking if anybody else did know,
Yeah.
as opposed to just guessing,
the
speculating,
advanced
assuming.
vein, yeah.
Don't like assuming. Okay, so if you get an answer, that would be great.
Okay, I can ask. I mean, they bought their land after us, so they may not necessarily know, but I can certainly ask them.
Excuse me, if you're gonna speak, can you introduce yourself? Thank you. That's it.
I was just gonna suggest that, another place to go to see. Check with engineering.
Yeah, if just get an answer to Chuck, whatever the answer is, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, notice there's a lot of yard waste thrown over the fence, looks mostly brush. I didn't see leaves or any grass clippings or anything, but brush piles that should be removed, and they're very far from other properties, so.
So the only yard waste is there is the vine that was growing up from the wetland into our property and over the fence and up into the trees. So between myself and the Spellmans, we just cut the vine back. And that's what all that is just remnants of the vine
Okay,
from the wetland.
just can't throw a pile of brush or vines or whatever into the wetland area.
Even though it came from the wetland.
Yes, because if you put it in one place like that, it'll inhibit growth in that area.
Mm.
Plus, when it decomposes, it will fill, and you're not supposed to fill. So bottom line, if you cut things, take it out, bring it to the compost area or whatever,
Okay.
or have a fire in that stone circle. Getting permission first.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the vines, because we did see a lot of trees with vines, so we definitely encourage you to cut them.
Okay.
Can you have your engineer, whatever, add erosion control to the plan?
Sure.
Okay, I'm not sure where it will go exactly. I mean, the property's pretty flat, but it should be something there.
Okay. And like when you say erosion control, just like a little barrier.
Yeah, I mean, your person would know, but we typically ask for mulch sock, state sock, or something like that, something just, as they dig up to do the work, so nothing migrates towards the wetland.
Okay.
Okay. And I echo what Martha said about plantings along the back a little more strongly than she did. What we do typically is we ask for some width of a buffer strip to be planted. And we recognize that there's not a ton of space out there, so I would ask that it be a 3-foot buffer strip along the wetland line back there. And it should include some ground cover kind of material and other plants. It's basically not just one kind of planting.
Okay. So when you say ground cover, like grass, you mean, or?
No, not grass. I'll leave that to Martha because my head's blank at the moment, but
Sometimes it's ferns.
There you
And
go.
there's a native plant list on the website where you can look, and it divides things up by ground cover and shrubs and trees. And I
Okay.
think we're not asking for trees back there, but
Right.
some ground cover and some shrubs. And maybe look into which ones are less likely to get eaten by the deer, so they might survive better.
again, technically, we could ask for up to 25 feet in red.
Mm,
We recognize that would be a real problem with that
Right.
property, so we're not gonna do that, but 3 feet is what we've been typically asking for.
okay. And just behind the addition or the whole property?
Uh, ugh. It should be along the wetland flags. Should be 3 feet along the wetland flags, so that's pretty much your whole property back there.
Along the drainage easement.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, could we settle for the drainage easement? Because the wetland line goes up across that mound, and as you guys could tell when you were out there, there's not a single thing that's going to grow up there.
No, yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
Okay.
And that mound definitely looks artificial. Must be filled. Do you have any idea why that was put in when, I'm assuming when the house was built?
Yeah, it's just I don't really know. I assume it was there when the house was built. I don't know what kind of tank it was. I mean, the owner's son, the builders who built the house, sent our neighbor kind of a history of the property, pictures when they built it and all. And the most of Winthrop Ave wasn't there. They had pictures of them clear cutting the whole street from trees. It was kind of a house in the woods at the time. So I don't know if it was like a water tank because there wasn't any water at the time. If it was they used it as like a fresh water tank or what they might have used it for back then. But
All right. And that's the only questions I have.
I did have two more.
Go ahead, Martha.
Construction entrance and materials stockpiling. Where will those be?
pretty much from the driveway is my understanding of it all. I think they're gonna, all the trucks and whatnot will come off the street, so they would come down the driveway, and then my guess would be they would probably stockpile everything, pretty much probably on the driveway, I'd imagine.
Okay, and then what that means for where will your cars be while the construction is going on and your driveway is unusable?
Well, we won't be living there because they're taking the roof off as well because it's a Cape style now, and they're kind of straightening out the roof line. So our builders basically told us we need to kind of move out for 3 to 4 months. So we won't really be there.
So you won't need to park cars there.
Yeah.
And to follow up on Martha's question, can you have your people add the stockpile to the plan?
Sure.
Location, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay. So it sounds like we need to continue. Thank you very much. So is there anybody in the room who has any questions or observations? No. Is there anybody online? If you do, use the reaction button on the lower part of your screen and raise your hand.
Seeing none.
None.
Has
Okay.
Chuck had everything he needs to say?
And no, you guys covered all the questions that I could come up with, so good.
All right, you've trained us well.
Yes.
Or not. So then, can I have a motion to,
Continue to May 14th.
first of all, you have to agree. Are you okay with continuing to May 14th?
Is that the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is that 3 weeks or 2 weeks?
It's 3 weeks because of the month. We meet on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, so it's.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all about those plans from your engineer with the water system.
Right.
It would be helpful if they were here, but they're not, so.
Oh, I know. It's been a very frustrating process.
Can imagine. Can I have a motion to continue?
I'll move to continue this hearing to May 14th.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe's in favor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you on the 14th.
All right, thank you.
I think we might have told other people the 7th for those other continued hearings at the beginning of this meeting.
We haven't actually had those hearings yet, but yes, we did mention them.
Yeah.
So,
So when they come up on the agenda in that order, we'll correct that.
Tony, someone hadn't spoken on order. Anyway.
You know, put your name in the paper, you really kind of like lose your mind.
Exactly. Okay, so our next one is 15B Street. Is
Is
anybody
anyone-
here for that?
Is that the next one? Yeah?
Yes.
Is anyone here for that?
Okay.
It's you, right?
So
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying.
oh, yes, well, you're right. Sorry. Next one is 288 Grove Street. Okay, I will read the blurb. Open a public hearing on notice of intent filed by Ron Rice, General Manager of Meadowbrook Golf Club pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetland Protection Act and or the Wetland Protection Bylaw. Section 7.1, the applicant proposes to raise the existing storage building and construct a new 48-foot by 100-foot storage building. All of the work are within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under the projects by year. Assessors map 37, lot 4, DEP file 270-0799. Sorry, Jack. Okay, all right, you want to run us through it?
Sure. For the record, my name is Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. In attendance with me tonight from Meadowbrook Golf Club is Pat Tompkins. As the chairman stated in the opening, we were issued a DEP file number for this project. All of others have been noticed and approved from the abutter notifications provided in Chuck's advance of the meeting. The wetland delineation on this project was performed by Norse Environmental Services. There's an existing 40 by 75 foot, one-story storage building that is going to be demoed and replaced with a 48 by 100 foot, one-story building in a similar location. The existing 40 by 75 foot building, a portion of it falls within the 35 foot no structure zone to the wetlands. So the new building's being repositioned slightly so that the entire building is outside the 35 foot no structure zone. Just so you know, the closest point of the proposed building to the wetland line is 40.5 feet. The existing building, there's no drainage associated with this building. With the proposed building, we're proposing a subsurface infiltration system. It's going to be Caltech units. I actually performed 2 soil test holes out there. great soils, sands and gravels, somewhat of a high groundwater table. So with that in mind, and to help us out with the grading on this project, we've raised the new building 1 foot higher than the existing building. Both buildings are on concrete slabs, but we're bringing the grade up a foot. This allows us to reduce the heights of a retaining wall we need for the gravel surface area, which I can get into. But it also allows me to maintain the 2 foot separation from the seasonal high groundwater table to the bottom of our drainage system. And I sized the drainage system for the 2 and 10 year storm event. So the commission knows a 2-year storm is 3.2 inches of rain over 24 hours. A 10-year storm event is 4.9 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. For storms larger than a 10-year storm, I do have a pop-up emitter, so that it would release larger storm events into a grassed area, and then it can go overland towards the wetland. It's well outside the 35-foot no structure zone as well. I should note, I did do a table on the plan showing the existing impervious surfaces in this area and the proposed. We have the existing buildings in this concrete aprons. We have 3,226 square feet of impervious area. The proposed, the new building's 48 by 100, so that's 4,800 square feet, and we have 108 square feet of retaining walls, so we have 4,908 square feet of impervious area. So there's a net increase of 1,682 square feet of impervious surfaces, but I'm mitigating 4,800 square feet of the roof area. So there's a net effective reduction of 3,118 square feet of impervious areas for this project. For the building itself, it's strictly going to be for storage. There's no interior plumbing. There's an existing water spigot outside the current building that will remain. It's an outdoor spigot. As I stated, there's no interior plumbing. There will be overhead electric that's run to this building. There's overhead electric now to the existing building off one of the utility poles. As part of this project, there'll be 10 trees that will be removed within the 100-foot buffer zone. They're noted on the plan that the trees, the type, the caliper, and there's an X through the ones to be removed. We're proposing to plant 10 new trees, 3-inch caliper, from the native tree list that the town of the Conservation Commission has. The 10 trees, will provide those to Chuck. It will be based on availability when it comes to planting the trees. So we meet the tree removal and tree replacement policy of the town. For the new building, there's an existing gravel surface that services the existing building. We're proposing for the surface to remain gravel. It'll be a new gravel area. And it's being widened in some spots. I know you did a site visit. There's some steep drop-offs to the existing gravel with no retainage. It's just a steep slope. We're formalizing this. There'll be 30 feet from the proposed building to the edge of the gravel surface. There'll be a landscape retaining wall. I'm showing a Versalock wall to be constructed. It'll be no higher than 4 feet in height, so it's not a structural wall. That's why it's a landscape wall. I should note, I did have discussions with Meadowbrook early on where this is a storage building. We got into, do we think we need like an oil water separator? Would there be floor drains inside the building? After some discussion on it, this is strictly for storage. They're not looking to service, repair, wash vehicles inside the building. So we didn't show anything at this point. It is a commercial building, so we're not sure if when we apply for a building permit, if the health department or the fire department may require it. If they do, I can put one in and connect it out to that drainage infiltration field. But at this point in time, we don't see a need for it, but that may come up at the building permit phase. I think that completes my presentation. I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions they might
Any questions, comments from the commission? Walter?
Yeah, we did the site visit this past Monday. My immediate concern was on your diagram where you show the trench drains, there's a steep slope down to where the building's gonna be. And there's no stone on that slope. It's all sand and grit and dust. I tried to look inside the trench drains themselves. Looked, there was sand and grit in them. I did not know where it was discharging. I can see where it is now. So I don't know what that looks like. My concern is that you're gonna be draining all that sand and grit down into your retention area. Normally, there was always some kind of separator or manhole cover for that area. Is that under consideration?
When you talk about the trench drains, are you, Chuck, is he talking about the ones further up the driveway?
Yeah, these guys up here,
Yeah, those ones.
this looks like because of the slope, there's quite a bit of drainage down this direction into the retention system.
Right, so that,
And that's all bare. It's just sand and grit. There's no stone there.
so they'll be re-graveling that area, grading it, compacting it. The drainage system is subsurface and it's just collecting the entire roof of the proposed building. So where it's a gravel surface, we're not proposing any drainage. It's gravel now. Where we're not creating an impervious surface, I'm not showing any drainage for that gravel surface. It'd just be the building itself will have, the gutters will have roof drains that go underground into the subsurface infiltration field. And that's why I noted in what I did the table on the impervious surfaces to show that right now, there's no drainage system for the gravel surface in that area or the building. Now we're putting in a system that will handle the entire roof area for a 10-year storm. So it's a major improvement.
Looking at Caltech's literature, they seem to recommend some kind of manhole or separator before going into the system, if it's a loose gravel or sand type of environment.
They do, but where this is, it's just gonna be the roof, the stormwater from the roof being collected, that's considered clean. So you don't have to do any sort of pre-treatment, but you'd be right, Walter. If I had a catch basin or a trench drain in the parking lot and then collecting that water and moving it to a Caltech unit, I would need some sort of pre-treatment like a deep sump manhole. But in this case, that system is only for the roof and the roof runoff's considered clean for this project.
What about the runoff coming down the slope?
I'm not collecting that. I'm not doing anything.
Where's it going?
It'll go as it goes now. It goes down that hill. It's gravel now, but it's not pavement, so water will be able to move through that material where it's not impervious. That's not to say you don't have a point that those trench drains may need some maintenance. And Pat's here tonight. If they need to be cleaned, if they're silted in, that's something they can look at. It's separate from this project, but it's on their site, so they can take care of that.
Again, I'm going to be very conservative. My concern is that you get crud and gravel into the Caltech system and you're burying it. There's no manhole or access to clean it. Am I correct?
For the subsurface infiltration, there will be cleanouts. There'll be a couple cleanouts to grade. So when the Caltex go in, they're set on crushed stone. You have the Caltex, then there's 3 inches of crushed stone put on top and then filter fabric, then the gravel. So gravel will not be able to get into the Caltex.
The other concern I have is knowing how maintenance is being done currently. Golf courses do a great job of maintaining the grass and the greens. I'm a golfer, I know that for a fact. However, in that building, the current building, we found gasoline cans. There's smudges of oil on the floor. Is there going to be some kind of discipline not to do things that you discuss in that building?
Want to field that, Pat? Did you hear that question?
Yeah. Pat Tompkins, 83 King Street. I'm also a board member at Meadowbrook. We're storing in the building. It's all equipment storage. There's no maintenance. We have a separate maintenance facility. As far as any gas cans, we can create protocols and work on that to make sure there's nothing stored in the building. Put some signage up for no storage to address that.
And Jack already hinted at it, but my concern was you have all this equipment that's been lubricated, whatever, that runs the potential of leaking on the floor. But that'll be handled by another organization.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm done.
My turn? Okay, at our site visit, we noticed a lot of debris on the ground behind the current garage. Granite slabs that were from the golf course sometime in the past, some plastic pipes and things like that. I'd like to see all that debris moved away from the wetland when you do the construction, so that behind the garage does not become a storage area for things you want to get out of sight. So that's one thing. We did check the locations of the nearest wetland flags, and we thought they were reasonable locations. So I think that 40 feet is accurate. So I'm not worried about structure in the no structure zone. I was a little concerned that there's one tree that seemed like it should have been on the plan and was missed.
Missed it?
Yeah, it's somewhere between 77A and 76A.
Okay.
We saw a really big pine tree that's probably your 38-inch pine, and then there's another one. But if you're not taking it down, it's not particularly relevant. I'm guessing you didn't do all the trees going out further into the distance either.
No, I did a number of them, but I could have easily missed one.
Yeah, okay. All right, and speaking of debris, when we first got there, we parked in the parking lot near the other metal frame building. And we parked where it says pull forward all along that edge. And we found flag 64A, but we also found a lot of leaves that had been blown probably off the parking lot into the woods there. And they are in the 35-foot zone, if not in the 25-foot zone. And we asked people not to dump their yard waste in the wetland area, but take it someplace else, maybe down to the compost area or something like that. Okay, and my biggest concern was you're proposing to put this Cultec chamber right where there is currently a gravel driveway, so people have been driving over it with trucks a lot. And I know at other sites, Chuck has been very particular about not compressing the soil where the Cultec chamber is gonna go. Isn't that soil really badly compacted where that Cultec chamber is gonna go?
Well, the good news is it's a really coarse sand with stone, so it's hard to be too compacted. Like certain soils, I would say yes, if there's a lot of silt, it can compress and compact. In this, it's so coarse. But you bring up a good point. Usually we try not to drive over it until it's put in. In this case, to demo the building, they're gonna be driving in there to demo. But I don't see with these types of soils that they'll get compacted.
And will it be strong enough to withstand driving on top of it after the fact?
They're H20 rated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, Caltech a number of years ago, all their rechargers are now H20 because it used to be able to get H10 or H20, and people were doing the H10s and they were crushing.
Yeah.
So now they're all H20 rated.
Okay. And the dashed line is your erosion control?
Yes, be a 12-inch mulch stock.
All right. I was gonna ask what trees you're planning to put in your plan, and you already answered that you're going to run those by Chuck when you are able to find out what you've got.
Yep, they'll be off your list, and based on availability, they'll get an okay by Chuck.
Yeah. Okay,
Tim, do you have anything?
The only thing was the storage container that's gonna be removed after the building is done. Temporary container, the 20-footer.
up in the parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, the plan is to remove that container. But I didn't know that would be an issue either way. It needs to be removed. I think the plan was, hopefully we don't need it anymore.
Tim, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I have a few. So the first is I want to echo what Martha was saying about the debris and what have you behind the building. So my concern, twofold. One, be sure that area is totally cleaned up because there's a lot there. More importantly, going forward, how do you intend to prevent the area around the new building from becoming storage dumping ground as well?
So, first of all, as I'm typing on my phone, I'm taking notes while you're talking. I'm not ignoring you. So one of the things, if you look at that existing building, I don't know if you recall, but there are overhead doors on both sides of the building, and it's too small. We're kind of, squeezing to get stuff in. So the building is accessed from both sides. So we go around behind the building right now. I know the debris you're talking about. I've been a member there for 20 years. I think some of that stuff predates my time there. One of the benefits of this building, one of the things we like about it is all the overhead doors. There's 5 overhead doors facing away from the wetlands. The building effectively turns its back to the wetlands. So we shouldn't be back there. We're going to be tighter. There's less space. As you look to the right, I guess the right or the bottom of the page, I was talking to Jack before the meeting. We're showing a retaining wall and then an area, and then the building. I was actually talking to him about making that wall, the building, a retaining wall, so we can backfill right up to it, which will further just inhibit access back there. But the building, one of the things we like, we did this project, we worked with Weston and Sampson to do a feasibility study, and we looked at multiple options on the building. We looked at maintaining the existing building, which just wasn't feasible. It was turning into something that would cost more and be less efficient. But it really turns its back on that area. So there's going to be, I can tell you, we'll put in protocols, put in standard operating procedures, educate our staff on putting, the leaves going in the wetlands and what have you. We have places to put, we have places to put leaves, what have you, and make sure they're not going there. But the natural turning of that building, like I'm gone 20 years from now, my current superintendent's gone 20 years from now. It's the way it's designed, you're just not going to be back there. And what's going to happen is the vegetation is going to continue to encroach on the building, and there's not going to be any space.
So I get what you're saying. That's good. You started by saying shouldn't go back there. Should's a pretty weak word. So I would like to see verbiage in your procedure, what have you, saying don't do it. Because, things tend to propagate. And what's back there, you can see just over time has built up, and there's a lot back there.
Yeah, we can absolutely put a specific policy, standard operating procedures that the grounds crew will be part of their procedures. There'll be an affirmative, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. we can definitely do that.
So in your narrative, it says no yard waste will be disposed of in a resource area. Can change that to in the resource area or within 50 feet of the resource area. So basically keep it away from it, like Martha was saying before. And it also states that you'll contact DPW to see if there's a disposal area. Why wait for the future to do that? Contact DPW now and put in here what you're going to do with your yard waste. Right? I mean, why leave it to the future for somebody to reach out at that point? Okay, so pesticides. The current building has a sign on it saying pesticide storage. The gentleman who met us there said there's not going to be pesticide storage in the new building. And yet in the narrative, it says that there will be, and it has commentary on all the list of all different types. So my first question is, will there be pesticides stored in the building?
I think I'd have to get back to you affirmatively on that, but it's my understanding that the intent is not to store pesticides in that building. It's all stored in the maintenance building.
Okay, because there's a whole section in your narrative talking about it and also saying environmentally friendly, whatever, are preferred. So my question would be, if they're preferred, just state in there that they will be used, something that's more, that's less of an issue with the wetland. So that would be an answer to get back to Chuck on about whether or not there'll be pesticides in there. So are there going to be any petroleum products stored in the new building?
No.
So that means that the current gas cans that are in there are not going to be stored there once the new building is done? Where are those going to be instead? Where do we get moved to?
They would be in the maintenance building.
So what's the process then? Somebody brings equipment back, they store it there. Do they gas up before they park it in storage? Do they gas up when they take it out for the next operation?
They, depending on the use, they would gas it, but it would be gassed up in the maintenance building. I suppose you'd have to do that when you're returning.
Okay,
to
so
ensure that
the bottom line, there's no reason for any gas cans to be in the new building.
correct.
Let's see. So what procedures do you have for any leaks? Because presumably there'll be fuel in all the equipment that's in the storage building. How will you handle a leak? Right, it's machinery leaks. How are you gonna deal with that?
We would have to develop a standard operating procedure for that, put that together.
So we want to see that submitted to Chuck as well.
I look at that, Brian, it would just be like someone with a garage in Reading, you park your car, there could be a leak.
I agree.
A snow blower in your garage, there could be a leak, so it would be something that a residents would do, we can provide it. We wouldn't see it happening a lot, but it could happen.
I agree that it shouldn't be seen it a lot, especially if you maintain the equipment. Built by man, it's going to leak, right? Just the way it is. So I'd like to see something in there about how you handle that. Okay, what about snow storage areas? I didn't see any on the plan. Maybe I missed them. Did you mark off any snow storage areas?
I didn't mark any off. Everything in front of the building where the gravel will be here would be, there'll be doors to get into the building, so we won't be storing any snow in this area. They'd store it somewhere else on site.
So again, you want to have whatever that reality is aligned with what's in the narrative. If the narrative talks about in the event of a big storm, it'll be taken off site. And it implies there is a part snow storage area. So either change the narrative or add a snow storage area on the plan, just as long as they align.
We can show an area where we store snow.
It also says that materials like sand for winter and salt and what have you, stored off-site. Do you know where that's going to be?
Right by the maintenance building. We could put
The existing,
the existing maintenance building.
that should be clearer. And it sounds like you're not gonna do any paving down there.
None,
It sounds just gravel.
just
And
gravel.
whatever concrete slabs are on the outside now are gonna be taken up. right?
Correct.
There's nothing to replace that, no. Which will make the plowing interesting too. Okay, so that's the only questions I have. You have conditions to get to at some point, but in the meantime, Chuck, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a few. All right, so one of the things I'm concerned about is the fact that the entire building is closer to the wetlands than the existing building. I'm also concerned about the gravel driveway and the fact that, and I was trying to verify this, but I think it's true that this whole area is the Aquifer Protection District. If anything spills there, we're never gonna be able to capture it. And the gravel driveway is an excellent thing to have out in front of a working garage. Now, you're saying this is for storage, but this is essentially just a garage. And when I was there, I wasn't aware with the commission, I was there another time. This is a very active area of the golf course where things are coming in and out. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of storage. I really don't understand why, you know, you made a comment about having some sort of proprietary system there. I was wondering where you're gonna put it in the gravel surface. You can't put it in the garage. I don't think that's allowed. And again, access into the back was another concern. I'm wondering what the other departments are gonna say about this project. You know, as it's being presented here tonight. I'm just really wondering, I mean, if you spill even a gallon of oil or a gallon of gas, that's going to seep into the aquifer. It's definitely going to get there, and there's no way to capture it or for anyone to understand if that happened or not, who might be inspecting the place. So I think that's a big question about, you know, what's going on up here and how are those safeguards in place to prevent this in the future. I did also want to ask about the pop-up area. I see a little circle on the infiltration system.
Yep.
Caltech, is that?
That's it.
Yeah. So it's just gonna go right there, right? It's just gonna go and it's gonna seep right into the ground or does that gravel get compacted really tight and it really will just run off it?
So the pop-up emitter, the pipe comes out straight and then there's a 90-degree elbow up to a pop-up. The pop-up sits right on the grass surface.
Yeah.
So water would come up, it triggers, it comes up the 90 elbow,
Well, we must be looking at a
triggers, and then
different
just
spot.
goes over the grass. So I show an elevation of the pop-up to be at elevation 82, which is basically the ground surface right there.
Is this where it is right here? Just if you can see that little circle is what I'm talking about. Do you have a different area?
No, the pop-up's over here.
Oh, okay.
This circle is back to Walter's question. That would be an inspection port
Okay.
over the Caltech unit. So there'd be a cover to grade so that someone could look in that Caltech, make sure water's draining, to do some sort of inspection.
Well, that's a good spot for it. I don't mind that spot. And I also see that spot as probably something that, you know, over the years may be used more than what's alluded to now. I'm wondering if, you know, I know Brian said, just let Chuck know, just let Chuck know. I said that many times. I think after twice, you should be considering getting the information yourself, reviewing it, continuing the you know, the review. But I also was wondering about the back of the building, what you could come up with to just eliminate all possibilities of anything ever happening there. So that just gets, in a way, restored to natural area. I know you can't put trees there and the elevations don't look correct for a retaining wall, but and there's no openings in the back of the building, which is good. But you know, you probably have better ideas, but quite simply, you could just put a bollard there and then no one could get back there. And you could put a sign on the bollard that says, you know, this is a restored area, no access. My biggest question is the gravel surface and the concern I have about this and you know, what ends up happening. You know, if I had a garage and I wanted to do some work on it and it was a nice day, I might do the work outside. So I'm not sure the function of this area. I know you're calling it storage, but are you maintaining and opening up? I don't know, like whatever you have there. You have gators, you have you know, forklifts, whatever. Are they maintained in this area? But my biggest question is, how are you protecting the aquifer? And I think that needs to be looked at.
Well, I think the answer to that now is look what's there now. And you saw gas cans, you saw a bunch of things. Pat represented to the commission tonight, specifically to Brian's questions, that those materials that they saw, gas cans, anything like that, will be up in the maintenance building. So further away from the wetland. And all maintenance storage will be in that building. This building will just be for storage. Now, there's a large area in town that's within the aquifer protection district. Someone could go out with a lawnmower, have a leak in their lawn, and it could, you know, there's no protection. I think by the club moving everything to that maintenance building, where it presently exists today with no safeguards, I think this is a huge improvement. And the club will put something together,
Yeah, I
what
know.
their protocol is.
I don't think you can solve all these issues with a protocol. I think that these pictures, this is bigger, and it says you have like,
But you're not gonna have fertilizers, you're not gonna have pesticides in this building, you're not gonna have gas cans. You will have some equipment. Could it leak? It could leak. It'll be inside. If it came out and leaked in the gravel, that could happen anywhere in town by a wetland.
what is LTPPP stand for? A long-term pollution prevention plan.
Correct.
Is this site like a gas station, like a, what is that called, like a Lupa or something like that? It's not. How come it doesn't qualify for that?
That's for industrial uses.
And this isn't an industrial use? No. Why, how does it not meet that standard?
This property's, I would say, commercial.
Yeah.
It's not industrial. It's not a gas, we don't have like underground gas tanks or there's no industry going on. It's just a storage building. They're not doing any industrial work within the building.
Part of the things that you talked about in your opening statement was the fact that there won't be any washing or anything like that in this area. Long-term pollution prevention plan talks about washing, vehicle washing controls as part of this LTPPP. Like I said, I think there's a concern here. It would be great to see some sort of surface there and some sort of proprietary system there. I'm hoping the building department requires one, but I don't want to depend on them. I don't know who else has to review this. Have you gone to CPDC yet?
Well, if we look at this, if I just here's the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah. Off of what, and back of the building?
From yeah, see this heavy line?
I do.
Yep, so that's the 100-foot buffer. So, you know, this is gravel. So in your jurisdiction, this area here is a gravel area. It's not a large area.
Yeah.
We did talk with Andrew at the planning department, and if we'd have to file with CPDC, he said no. We're not creating any additional parking. It's just for storage. We're replacing an existing building. I think right now, there's, like I said, there's no stormwater controls on this site. Now there will be. Pat already represented, they'll put together some sort of plan showing what's gonna be in this building, where things are gonna go. If you, I don't know in the budget if there'd be money to pave this area. The club has a budget. We thought gravel was the best solution. With gravel, typically be above the groundwater table. The reason you want 2 feet of separation between a stormwater structure and the water table is so that treatment can take place. So, I mean, if there was a spill, there's soils between us and the groundwater table. You don't want spills. I don't really see spills taking place here.
I see many spills happening there. That's, in my mind, it's like a mini
But
spill
that's
area.
now. That's now with what's going on out there. It's gonna be different.
So I know you pointed out the buffer zone, the 100-foot, so in our regulations, it has, I don't know what page it is, page 5. And we have activities outside the buffer zone, and it says in the commission determines that such activities is more likely than unlikely to alter the area subject to protection in the bylaw. It shall impose conditions on this activity. So we have within our regulations to go beyond the 100-foot in situations like this. I would ask you to look at this area seriously, and you know, you don't want to spill out there either. You don't want to have a problem. I'm not saying you're not doing everything you can at this moment to prevent that, but you're not going to be there in 20 years. I'm not going to be there in 20 years. And we don't know what happens day to day because no one's down there all the time and everyone's onto the protocol. And I know you said you have training and whatnot. And I was almost going to say, hey, do you have any logs or anything like that to show that the training's been happening all along? Is everyone up and certified at this moment on this training? Or is this some new process that's happening? But I'm thinking that this is a big enough deal to kind of say, we want to prepare for, you know, the worst case scenario and just hope that it doesn't happen. I don't think we have a situation here that protects the aquifer. So that's kind of where I'd leave it. And I would accept a liner. I think that would be an interesting, the turn back track was talking about a liner for what they use. It seemed like the commission listened to that. I don't know if they didn't make an opinion on it, but you could have your gravel and have a liner or something like that, or you could pave a certain area and put in, a oil grease separator or something like that, something that would catch that unfortunate event. That's what I have to say.
I will say that I share Chuck's concern about procedures not covering everything. I find that with human behavior, there's always somebody who a little more lax. It's a nice day, as Chuck said. I could see somebody going outside and thinking, I'll be careful, I won't cause a problem, and, surprise. So that's something I was going to have an issue with going forward, because I just don't believe that that's likely enough. I don't think it, imperfect is tough, but I don't think it's likely enough. So a lot of questions were raised. So maybe the best next step is to have another site visit out there. We can convene with somebody who maybe knows the situation better than who we met last time. Maybe we'll have some of the answers to the questions that were raised, and we can factor that in to the next site visit. Maybe Chuck can make it with us. We went Monday, it was a holiday, so I expect Chuck to be there. But it just seems like there's an awful lot of questions, big and small. So
Do we take from this that the commission would rather see the surface paved?
I think that was a compelling argument. Paved or a liner, Chuck is right, with the turnaround track that was brought up. we did give an opinion on it because it didn't go that far. They withdrew it temporarily. But aligning underneath the train to catch any leakage or anything is an interesting idea. It's kind of the same concept there, so it's something you can think through. In the end, we don't design things, you folks do, you propose design. And we talk about it.
Just, one of the questions that came up on that trench drain. The trench drain, any gravel, from washout is coming from like further away. So in my opinion, just when things come up, if anyone talks about like paving that back lot, my instinct is to tell them that we came to you, you wouldn't want us to do that.
I don't think it was suggesting paving that lot. I think the idea was paving some area near the new storage building where people would potentially work on equipment or someplace that would catch things.
So effectively, sort of like an apron in front of the building.
Is that what you meant, Chuck? Like an apron around the building, in front of the building?
No, I actually like the gray area, but I'm not designing. I think we just make that suggestion and like Jack, think about it.
Just one comment on the processes and protocols. I totally get it. You know, we're all not gonna be here. I do think that, you know, the new building and how it's situated it's a permanent, you know, we're hoping this building is there for 50 years. It's by all stretches, it's a better situation for that area back there. Currently, you know, roof runoff just gets dumped onto the ground. Currently, to get in the building, to make the building workable, we have to get to it from the back, which puts us back there. I get it, there shouldn't be debris creeping up on the wetlands, but just the building and the new structure in and of itself does go a long way to changing. That's a permanent, as opposed to I train a superintendent, we put protocols in place, people move on, things change. So just bear that in mind. We are trying to create a permanent, better situation. And the other building has a garage where the mechanic doesn't go down there to fix equipment because all his tools are in the other building. So it's not a routine activity. Now, if a machine's broke and you can't get it out of there, someone's got to go down and deal with it, no doubt. But the routine maintenance of all the equipment does not happen in this building. The intent of the building is pure equipment storage.
Sure, but
We'll get you clarification on all
But
those.
each spillage may come from the non-routine. You know, the case where it's broken down in that building and you have to do something, tow it, fix it there, you know, that could still cause a problem.
Yeah, and to clarify, I'm not looking, I think I would be disappointed if it was just a small paved strip in front of the building. I would need to know or look at it and say, I get how that's going to do this, the protecting that I think it would be. I think at a minimum, it would be at the edge of the infiltration area, and the most I'm looking at is generally that area in front, because the front area would be, you're not gonna put away a cart if you're going in to grab something. It's gonna be parked outside and it's gonna sit there, and you know, the accumulation of leaking. And again, our education is from the turn back track, and we looked at the depot and just that train sitting there, just leaking oil all over the stone. Not the same situation. You guys have done a great job. I'm not saying you're not the greatest, and you put all the protocols in place. I've hardly had to be at your site. I'm just saying this might be something you want to look at because you don't want a problem either. And it's worth it. And we do have that aquifer protection district right in this area too. So.
Okay, having said that, do you agree to a second site visit?
Yep.
And do you agree to a continuation?
Yes.
I think that's pretty obvious. Do we want to try and pick a site visit now?
Well, we don't have all, Tony's not here and all that. I think it would be better if we just did it through email Monday when our members get back. We have Tony, and I think that Tim was saying he was, I don't know, in Canada or something like that.
Quebec, which is like Canada.
It's like Canada.
It's send an email out, we can coordinate it.
So then can I have a motion to
They want to
continue?
be on the 7th or the 14th. Good question.
I move to continue this hearing to May 14th.
Walter Talbot seconds that motion.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Ryan Bill in favor. Thanks, gents.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. All right. Thanks, Janet.
Excuse me for a second.
Take a break for
Okay. 5-minute break.
Sorry.
All right, we're back.
Okay. The chair's prerogative, we're going to change the agenda a little bit. We're going to hold 15B in abeyance for a moment, and we're going to move forward to item 9, which is the Reading Open Land Trust. They're going to present plans for a vegetated seating area off Collins Avenue. Having said that, you want to introduce yourself, please? Stand at the podium.
So, Chuck is fully on board with this as far as going. So this is about a half-acre piece of land.
Can you introduce yourself?
Excuse me, you didn't actually introduce yourself, even though we know who you are. Thank you.
So we hired someone and want to put in a bench, a concrete pad. Near the wetland, obviously not the wetlands. And we're getting a plant list from Chuck, hopefully with all native plants. That's our intent. Very appropriate. The site needs a lot of cleanup. There's a sidewalk there with about a foot of leaves. So I'm hoping to get the Boy Scouts to service.
Bench on there somewhere.
Sidewalk. And I'd like to get the neighbors involved. It's gonna be right there. They can hopefully pick out some of the plants for ownership. I have someone lined up with a trailer to use compost pile of town. There's a theoretical site for the bench. About 10 feet off the sidewalk, I guess. So I'm hoping that in the next 9 days, some days, next progress.
So Bob's hired a landscape architect who's been out there many times and presented a plan, and they're going to, they're going to clean up the area for, what's on the ground, and they're going to plant native plants. And the proposal is to put in a bench, so it's a quiet, peaceful spot. This is open land trust land. It's at the end of Collins Ave, and right now, there's really nothing there. And it could get a little beat up by the snow plow and just the fact that it's kind of like the vacant end of a cul-de-sac. So this is a great plan, but the wetlands are kind of close. So there's a slab right there or right here. This is a slab, and the bench would go on top of that, and that's for security purposes.
The slab is already there.
No,
Okay.
that would have to be part of the proposal.
That's what I thought.
But a bench by itself, chained to a tree, doesn't really have that same warm and fuzzy feeling when you go there to just be, have a peaceful afternoon. But that's what this is supposed to be, just a quiet spot for anybody to go there. It's probably open to the whole town, but Bob expects that it would only be direct neighbors and people that within walking distance that would use this. So I think,
So how close to the wetland is?
I would say you're 20 feet, kind of on one side, you're 20 feet. On another side, you might be 15 to 25 feet. And the back is the furthest away. It might be 40 feet.
Are in the no structure.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a filled area. So everything is very elevated by 4 feet. So, and you can look at the trees. It's been filled for many years. Those are probably 20-year-old trees or so. So again, it's a restoration plan with a bench and concrete slab.
Might have a gravel pathway.
I think there's a,
However, whatever material you guys decide is appropriate. Make water or something.
that one doesn't want to open up. Yeah, so there's no sidewalk there, so that elevates the necessity for a gravel, path to get out to the bench or even to get from cul-de-sac to where this area is, which is really just off the edge of the road.
And you had said hopefully native plants, why would it?
This-
That's fine. And you said hopefully, and I figured it was just a figure of speech,
we're
but
not gonna- we go
so it will be native plants.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what I love to hear.
I was there with the architect, the landscape architect, and she absolutely agrees that it's all native.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
There's enough non-native around, but get rid of it.
Any questions?
I'm wondering what the structure is for, say, the bench in the town forest that looks over the hill. Is that on a granite slab or
Yes.
is it just granite posts at the ends? It's
At
on the
least one,
slab.
at least the nearest one is.
All right, so that's really the only option for this bench is to put it on a slab?
There's another one that works, I'm open to it, somehow we ended up on that, I don't know if my landscape architect recommended it, but one reason was so it sank down, change the tree.
And if you remember, the ones that we put in at Matera and Bear Meadow are concrete slabs.
As you walk out to the viewing platform, that's probably the oldest one that's been there for 10 or 15
On the
years.
right-hand side?
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Judy?
They're both on concrete slabs. It's kind of the preferred way. This is a town, you own the property, but this is for the people in the town, and you have to have a certain level of, equipment out there and security. So I think bolting it down to the slab would be a good idea.
And the slab would be big enough for people's feet not to dig holes and make a mud puddle right in front of the bench?
Bingo.
You were thinking the same thing?
That would be my preference too.
Although I would say in at least one of the benches in the path going to Bear Meadow, the slab is longer than it needs to be. So just have it the width of the bench and maybe a little bit more. There's no point in paving paradise.
That'll save us some money too.
Well, I'm all about that.
Concrete, everything, funny, so just enough of the bench and then front.
Yeah, but a little bit to this, I mean, a little bit to the sides, make it warm and fuzzy, as Chuck said, but just not a whole extra mass. Any comments, questions, Walter?
So this is a structure that's gonna be inside the 35-foot zone where it's supposed to be no structure. So are we making an exception to that rule, and is the plantings the mitigation for that? And the cleanup of the leaves, is that what the mitigation is?
It
that's
could be,
being
but I think
proposed?
this project qualifies for public benefit, which is one of the criteria in our variance request. So, I think that they're covered, you know, is there another spot for it? Is it as small as possible, and does it create a public benefit? And I think that Bob meets all those, standards.
If there's
Okay.
any other mitigation we can do, just let us know, but I'm sure there is.
Gator.
What is it?
You want your vehicles, so you want your leak. Okay,
I'm done.
Tim, you got anything?
Nope.
There will be a-
So do we need, what is this? This is an administrative.
So there will be a variance request?
Well, I'm wondering, my question was, Bob just wanted, you know, to get permission to move forward. Is this an administrative request? Do you want him to just submit the variance request and then
Yes.
you've approved it?
I would like there to be a variance request so we are consistent,
Okay,
because we're in the 35-foot zone. I'm fine with him doing administrative action through Chuck. You can disagree with that, but I'm fine with that. I agree with public good, so.
Yeah.
In my mind, I think so.
Get that form from Chuck, fill it out.
If you're really nice, he might fill it out for you, part of it. He's got nothing else to do.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
no, I probably could. So, okay,
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
all right, Bob, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Does anybody else want to jump in before Derek? Okay.
Now we're on 15B.
15B at long last.
In,
Open the public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by Derek Russo pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes excavation to install new fiberglass shell, construction of 30-inch retaining wall, pavers surrounding the pool, and restore the surrounding landscape with native plantings. All of the work is within 100-foot buffer zone. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors map 29, lot 25, RDA 2025-6. Introduce yourself, please, and walk us through it.
Hi, my name is Derek DeRusso, 15 B Street. I'm proposing to putting a new pool in an existing spot where our pool is now. And native planters.
So that's fine. I didn't know if you wanted to talk any of the backstory or anything.
Did you have a chance to look at the native plant list on the
Yep.
website?
Yep.
And did you pick out something you were thinking about?
Inkberries and switchgrass. Mostly alternating like the switchgrass, inkberry, switchgrass, inkberry, switchgrass. I was just checking to see if they were poisonous or anything for my dog. That was the only real.
And you haven't yet figured that
I
out.
went to Mahoney's and talked to multiple people and they said those were the ones they would suggest. Nothing with berries or nothing that dropped anything or had big leaves that dropped so that they would probably not go on the pavers for the dog to eat. And what he said, the switchgrass, and then maybe also mostly any of the other ornamental grasses probably maybe mixed in that are on the list.
I'm just,
I have 2 dogs and 2 inkberry plants where the dogs are. I looked into this about 4 years ago, but don't quote me.
Well, that's what they
Find an
said, yeah.
expert.
No, that's what they said too, like the guy said he had them in his house and that's why he suggested.
And they grow nice, the inkberries.
Yeah,
and they don't produce inky colored berries? I mean, they're named inkberry.
I know, I would have thought so too. That's why I was nervous.
Yeah, the one thing you should know is he used to have 4 dogs.
Before he put in the bushes.
Now, some plants come as male and female, and if you plant the males, you won't get berries. I don't know if that's true of inkberries or a holly, I think. I don't know if hollies come male and female, but that might be. What?
Always do come male and female.
Ah, so maybe that's why your inkberries aren't producing berries.
You're not dating the always the inkberries, they're not dating.
Okay,
So, but that would be something when you buy them at Mahoney's to check and see whether they can sell you male plants that aren't gonna make berries at all. Then you don't have to worry about that.
Definitely check that out.
any other questions?
And all 3 of these highlighted yellow strips, you're gonna plant the native plants
Yes.
along, okay? I did notice you have a lot of materials stored in the area where it says proposed sunroom.
They're all going to Maine.
Okay,
That's
so,
what was everything that was all the furniture that was in the pool area. That's all getting transferred to a house in Maine.
so once
next
all
week.
that gets cleared out, what will that area look like?
Exactly what it is now.
Is it grass
Yeah,
underneath? I
it's-
couldn't tell.
oh,
It's got
it's-
all stuff.
It's grass. It's all grass. And then there's a little gravel area where there was a swing set
Okay. All right.
at one time.
I'm done for now.
I just looked up on the internet and it says the berries on inkberry are poisonous to dogs and cats.
Oh,
So yeah, you want to get the males. I must have males.
Thank you for looking that up.
Okay,
yeah. And you've already got the erosion control down, so we don't have to ask you for erosion control.
Oh, yeah, I made sure.
So, your turn.
Tim, you got anything?
No,
Okay, thank you. Chuck, you got anything?
I don't.
Okay. Then, can I have a motion to close the hearing on 15B?
You don't have a thing to say?
Shocking.
What's going on?
I've been there twice, so.
Okay, I move to close the hearing on 15B's pool construction.
Walter Talbot seconds the motion.
Tim Shell in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, can I have, are there any conditions?
Yeah, that the plant should survive for 3 years. They need to be native. If you change your mind, then you have to let the Conservation Commission office know. At some point, we should let us know when you're paving
Pavers.
the pool surround area. Make sure that I'd like to monitor it at that point. And just keep the driveway and the roadway clean from any of the trucks moving in and out. I think those would be the conditions I'd
Good
have.
point. Yeah. In that case, can I have a motion for a negative determination?
I move for a negative determination of applicability on 15B Street.
Walter Talbot seconds the motion.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Lou Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Ryan Bow in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying so long.
No problem.
Okay, moving on. The next is a public hearing on a notice of intent for 885 Main Street at the applicant's request. That has been continued. Earlier, we erroneously said to May 7th, but it's really May 14th. Can I have a motion to continue 885 Main Street to May 14th?
So moved.
Walter Talbot seconds it.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Okay. Next one is continuing public hearing for 695 Pearl Street. This also at the applicant's request has been continued. Earlier we said May 7th. Reality is it's May 14th. Can I have a motion to continue 695 Pearl to 14th?
So moved.
Walter Talbot seconds it.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Okay,
I need to set up the next one, so.
okay.
We went too fast.
No, but I need to, this is, I need,
So that's the end of our hearings. We move on to old new business. And item 8, which Chuck will set up for us.
Yeah.
Is us voting to release remaining consultant funds.
so the commission's already done this. I've run into a problem with the accounting office where language and there was some confusion over why does the check say Howard Street, but we said Joy Lane. And so I provided a bunch of information. So we're just doing this to make sure we covered all the bases because this will get into the meeting minutes, which I don't think is needed, but just in case. So I'd like the commission to make a motion to release the remaining consultant fees for Joy Lane, formerly Howard Street, 135, 139, and 149R to Steve Knight and also to release the bond for Joy Lane, formerly 135, 139, and 149R for Joy Lane to Steve Knight also. And so, and then this project is finished and you're satisfied with it. So you don't have to try to repeat that. If you just say, someone said just so moved, and then Walter or someone else can say second, okay?
I just want to be clear, the numbers referred to the addresses on Howard Street.
Yes.
Yeah, when it
previous
originally came in.
addresses. Okay. And that whole property is now called Joy Lane.
Joy Lane, yeah.
Okay, so moved.
Walter Talbot seconds.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Okay, we covered the next item. Now is the Reading Open Land Trust. Brings us to violation notices. We need to talk about Pearl Street, or just need to sign the
Yeah, so I'd like to have it ratified, so if you can make a motion to ratify the
amended,
enforcement order for 445 Pearl Street.
the amended enforcement order. Or is it new?
I would call it updated.
Martha, can you make that?
I move to ratify the updated enforcement order for 445 Pearl Street.
Walter Talbot seconds the motion.
Tim Michelle in favor.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bow in favor. Okay. That brings us now to discussion items. And the only one we have tonight is DPW storage container review. So was this really the water fountain or the storage, the containers?
Same version. Yeah. I think we did this last time too.
I know, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're
It's the,
consistently silly. Okay, so I did go there today to look at the water fountain. The issue we had last time was while they had put in the gravel area around it and surrounded the gravel with wooden timbers, there was a gully outside of the timbers where they hadn't filled in. So DPW was asked to correct that. Today, in fact, it has been filled in. The new soil has been lately seeded. I think it's sufficient for now, although I expect there's going to be some compaction over time and they may have to revisit it, but we already have agreement with them that they'll revisit if there's anything that comes up. So at this point, I would consider it closed satisfactorily.
all right.
Any questions?
Doesn't need a-
I also, while I was there, looked at the containers where they're keeping the new carts. And it's all right, except the gate leading to that area was open. The gate leading into the containers themselves was open. And the left-hand container is askew, so it's actually too far back compared to the gravel pad that they put in. None of that's worth screaming to high heaven about, but I just thought I would know several things.
Yeah. I'll let Mike know that the gates were open.
Both
Not
sets.
sure. You mean the one way up by the compost area?
The one, the new one by the compost area. So
Yeah.
by the second entrance, that one was open. And the one, the chain link fence by the, with the storage, by the containers themselves went,
Yeah.
that's open. The containers are locked heavily. They are 40 feet, I measured. So
Okay.
it's really minor, but I just thought I'd note it. Having said that, is there anything else we need to discuss before we adjourn?
Well, we have an administrator's report, so
We almost
just wanted to. Tim wants to go. Sorry, Tim. So administrator's report, I just wanna let the Conservation Commission know that I've been trying to get a proposal from the Montessori School, the Millbury Forest Montessori School. They have identified Matera Cabin as a possible outdoor classroom area. And when the project is, well, actually, when they understand the project, they have a summary that I agree with. You can bring it to the commission, you'll get a presentation from that group. What it looks like is right now they have 6 to 8 school-aged children and adults that want to do an outdoor classroom through the entire school season. They would need the Matera Cabin or a bathroom area, and on rainy days or cold days that are too cold. They assure me that they're not gonna go in there when it's just misting out or it's just kind of cold, but they would need something like that. They also said that they would support the conservation's efforts and that they would participate in, part of their curriculum would be to work on a project that we presented. So it's not formalized yet, but I want to let you know that there's a group looking at being at the Matera Cabin grounds in Bear Meadow and being out there, and what they typically do is find a spot and they teach right there. So maybe where we decided to put the bench or a fallen tree somewhere, and they would have their classroom, and they would talk about whatever they talk about out there, and they would move on in a few days to another spot on the property. They've talked to Karen Herrick about this and she supports it wildly. So I think that we're gonna hear about this a little bit more. I'm gonna let them come in and present to the Conservation Commission. And we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Also drop off would be 4 or less cars. So it seemed to work also. The next thing I have is I just wanted to let the Conservation Commission know and anyone listening tonight that we're gonna have a cleanup day, a community cleanup at Millette, Psalms and Morgan. It's gonna be on Saturday, May 10th. And we want drop off at the Willow Street entrance, but those parking spots are not going to be available except for the handicap parking spot. And parking is available at Austin Prep, and there's a spot on the right-hand side just after the railroad tracks for any parking. But we do expect a lot of people to walk over from Hunt Street and Willow Street and Grove Street and help us. We need a lot of people. We're planning to do a lot because we're combining our day. This is a conservation sponsored event at the Millette, Psalms and Morgan area. But the Trails Committee on that same day are going to be doing they're part of this cleanup. They're going to be doing work on the head of the Abidjona Trail, which runs from the Millette, Psalms and Morgan area to Hunt Street. So we've been out there many times. We understand what they're doing. So we're gonna do debris removal on the trails, stormwater 4-bay cleanup, which is needed. If anyone's been down there recently, you'll notice all the leaves in that area and the sediment. We're adding wood chips to the Summit Path and the Abidjona Trail. That's the portion that the Trails Committee are gonna do. Now, we're not splitting this up as, oh, you came to work here.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna help out all around. It's a combined event. We're gonna look at some erosion control around one of the trees that look like a little bit of rocks. They did about 2/3 of the rocks around the tree on a raised area. And the rain hits that and the dirt runs right into the path. So we want to add a few more rocks and stones around probably another 1/3 of it and see if we can close that out. And then we're going to put some signage, just additional signage, because we want people to know that those rocks and those 4 bays areas and the weirs are here for a reason.
Yeah.
To stop the flow of the water and letting things settle out, and when they pick them up and kind of throw them, that's not what the intended purpose was. So that's May 10th. We're gonna have a media blast coming up. We're gonna try to get it in the paper. We're gonna reach out to as many people as we can, and on that day, we're trying to sign up people for trails, conservation, and Friends of the Millette, Psalms and Morgan project, and they would be specifically contacted and updated on things that happen at Millette, Psalms and Morgan. So that's my you can see this? Oh, thank you. From 10 to 3. From 10 to 3 on Saturday, May 10th.
Sounds good.
We need wheelbarrows. Bring wheelbarrows and rakes and gloves.
I'd have to get mine emptied by the person who uses it first.
I could bring it down full. We're having DPW pick up everything.
I could get.
JK, everybody. Don't bring your trash to Millette, Psalms and Morgan.
Okay, anything else before we adjourn?
No, that's the 2 things I had.
Then can I have a motion to adjourn at,
Wait a minute.
I actually, never mind, I apologize. I was thinking I already knew what you were here for.
Yep.
I just wanted to let you all know, following up my last meeting, I did submit my application. I did have 2 arborists on site, one from Mayor Tree Company, who wrote a letter to you all explaining the dangers of all these trees in my backyard. Pam from Northeast Tree, who has visited the site multiple times, has stressed her concerns over these trees. I do believe I am over these pine trees or over the 100-foot buffer. I don't see there being a problem there. I just had a surveyor come on the property today, found out I have a little bit more land than I thought I had. So there are some areas where I can plant some native trees in those areas, which are actually closer to the existing wetlands on my neighbor's yard. That would help out them. Same time, Brian, I know you had concerns about the man-made ditch in the yard. Have been breaking. I think if you go by, you'll see that it's been raked out. Now that I saw the surveyor come on site, I have a little bit more room to clean it up a little. So I just want to let you know, and I'm also in the application, you know that, obviously, one of the gentlemen showed the leaves and all the pine needles that had built up over the years. I had a similar problem. If you look at the pictures I put on the application, you'll see there's no grass on my land.
Can you give us your name and
My
address,
name
please?
is, sorry, yes, ma'am. Richard Keogh, 692 Pro.
Thank you.
Like I said, I would love to be able to plant these native trees, also willing to give a $500 donation. Yeah, he's down. And I like the idea of this May 10th event, show my appreciation to you all. If I can get these down, please. That's all.
How many trees altogether?
It's 21 pines.
You want to take down 21 pine trees?
There's two to three that are healthy. But arborists from Area Tree Company did say, obviously they're bleeding, there's also that risk. I'd like to wipe it if I can, but I'm also willing to be.
Are all 21 in our jurisdiction? You know where the 100-foot is, so.
No, you'll see I posted the GIS map locating all the trees. And they're all over 100 feet.
Oh, wait.
There's one tree that I noted after the arborist had left the property that's on the ditch. And I believe it's an oak tree. And that is leaning towards the house. Looks like it might be dead, I don't know. But my main concerns are the pines.
So you've submitted the application, so we'll actually be considering this at the May 14th meeting or the May 28th?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, if you want a little tidbit.
Sure.
This is the plan.
And where's the 100-foot line?
There's no 100-foot line, but I've looked at this property also. It's, where is it? Where's 100 feet from the stream at this point?
So, you don't know.
Yeah.
Wetland over here at 700
Mhm.
in his backyard. From the wetland to my property line is about 60 feet. Okay. The shed, I think, was like, go to the next map.
Oh, well, now you're asking for a lot. Let me see if I can find this. Photo attachment, which one is that? Oh, it's on the same page?
It was on the same page, yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So I have a shed right here. That
Let me
was
zoom
there,
in a bit.
when I purchased the home.
Yeah, what-
The 111 feet away.
Yeah.
From the existing wetland up here by 700 foot.
Yeah.
These were where all the trees are. Now there's these 2, 3, they're healthy, but the arborist said that there's still risk, obviously.
What does red indicate?
Red means the arborist highlighted the ones that he would take down.
Okay, and the black ones?
Black ones, he said, these are healthier trees, but there's still a risk. I'm an insurance guy. I don't like a lot of risk. Okay?
So, yeah, so Brian, you're gonna go out there anyways, right? And do it. I don't know what you guys are talking about is cleaning up the ditch. So maybe I should go with you also.
That's fine.
You just wanna
There's just a
realize
lot.
that this water here also approaches a jurisdictional 100 feet. So it would be water also.
Even though it's not wetlands?
Yeah, so streams, rivers, and wetlands. You know, that's what it is. So, yeah. Yep.
That's why I was surprised when you said it was outside jurisdiction. 'Cause we're-
That was man-made.
But in
As
Reading,
a drain pipe.
but in Reading.
Well,
that's-
underneath the road, right? But
Nothing.
over here, it comes out of a wetland and then goes underneath the road.
But all the water's going one direction, okay?
Which way?
It'd be going towards the wetland.
It's going this way?
Yeah.
We haven't seen that. So we're working on the site across the street and there was some confusion about what happens here.
Yeah.
but the culvert invert is higher on your end than it is across the street. So that would mean it's flowing towards, away from your property, to the property we're reviewing.
But it's easy enough to look when we.
Yeah.
when we check it out.
We'll just have to do a second, yeah, so maybe, I don't know when everyone's available, but, yeah, thanks for the little, thanks for the map, this, it's good, yeah, good map, you did a good job. You wanna set up a site visit before you, do you know when you're out, or you want me to do this by email on Monday?
Why don't we do email to give a chance for.
The rest of the crew,
Tony,
okay, that's what we'll do.
Cause I can just stop by, might give everybody a chance to do it. Okay. Sorry if I cut you out. Apparently you're doing that a lot tonight. Okay, on that note,
Anyone, let me just check and see if anyone's attending our meeting, 'cause it's a wildly popular meeting, I know, let's see.
probably do it all the witty man.
Well, we beat our total for last time. There's 3 people. Town Hall, Commissioner Tim, and RCTV.
Okay,
So we can adjourn I move to adjourn at 9:42.
Paul Talbot seconds it.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Tim, enjoy
Yeah.
Canada.
Thank you very much.
You should have at least one blue for me.
Okay. All right, we'll see you. Just send out the email for the site visits.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
All right, did we adjourn? Yeah, we did, right?
There's still green up there.
Yep, I'm gonna shut in the meeting.